The world is changing in front of our very eyes. The beauty spaces that was just makeup and skincare is now Botox, filler, and surgery. And in saying all that, I have to ask, is the beauty industry dehumanized? Short answer, no, it helps us feel better about ourselves. We're just girls who doesn't love to get pampered and pretty. But long answer, absolutely. And let me tell you how. The beauty industry is a little bit more difficult to criticize because we all partake in it. We all do skincare. We all like to get our hair done. We all like to get our nails done. But there's levels to it. And in nurturing yourself as a woman, you have to be very careful because the self-care can easily turn into self-hate. So to the woman watching this, what does the dialogue in your head sound like when you're looking in the mirror? Do you see yourself as a project? Like, damn, look at all the hair on my legs. Look at all the hair on my arms. Damn, why my eyebrows not done? Why my nails not done? What am I gonna do about the back knee? What am I gonna do about this? What am I gonna do about that? Are you criticizing yourself every single time you look in the mirror? And do you have a stowaway plan in your head of like, when I get my money up, I'm gonna glow up because I'm gonna get this done and this done and this done and this done and this done? Be honest with yourself. What does that dialogue sound like? And is that dialogue healthy? And if it's not healthy, understand that was their goal. In order for the beauty industry to be as productive as it is, you have to be insecure. They depend on you being insecure. And thus, they fill your head with insecurities. They create the insecurities and then they prey on them. And then the way that these beauty standards are pushed onto us is inescapable. It's on the ads you see on your phone. It's on the ads you see when you step outside. It's quite literally everywhere. They bombard you with these things so you're forced to consume them and thus question yourself. The first thing that we have to acknowledge is that beauty standards are not real. I want you to think of the most beautiful woman in your head right now. Just think, who is it? Okay, in another region, in a different timeline, maybe 100 years back, she would have been chopped. They would have looked at her and said, what is that? Let's take the Kardashians and the Jenners, for example. There was a time in where they were getting their lips done, they got the chest done, and then when they step into the limelight as celebrities, it's reinforced all over again. So they see something that's trending and they see what the beauty standard is, and then they become the beauty standard and it trends even more. It's a cycle, and then you look at yourself and you're like, damn, let me go get my lip filler. Let me go get these done. Now all of a sudden you fell victim to the industry. And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they take less stuff out now that slim Pilates bodies are trending? To this industry, to the media, women's bodies are just trends. They went from the BBL body to the Pilates body. They want you to sit there and adapt to all these different trends, all these different changes to what the world desires from women, so that you're putting more money in their pockets. And when I say the beauty industry, I'm talking about cosmetic surgery industry, the skincare industry, perfume, all of it. All of what we consume, particularly as women, is the beauty industry. We see a little bit of this here in America, where the baddest in Miami is not the baddest in New York, where the baddest in New York is not the baddest in Houston. So there's different standards everywhere, but when we take it globally, the difference is even more grand. And it really goes to show there isn't a single phenotype that represents beauty. So for us to sit there and chase what's in the media or chase what's trending is to degrade ourselves. In Ghana, that little gap in the middle, that's a sign of beauty. That's like peak attractiveness. She got a gap, she's a baddie. But in the US, they want your teeth straight. Same thing in Korea. They love a little bit of eye fat, but in the US, I don't want to see the bags, I don't want to see the fat, I want it smooth. To the point where people get surgeries for these things, but if you go to another region, they're gonna be like, hold on. Okay, so it's not real. You cannot feed into it because it's not real. It's not concrete, it's a construct. Another thing is too, I know y'all remember seeing the movies and the shows back then where they would call a white girl fat because she got a little booty and she got a little hips on her. Now that's the same thing that they want their women to have. It was just fat and ugly back then, but now that's what you want. The thing about beauty standards is that it's a goalpost that is going to continue to be moved. It's always going to be moved. You think you're the baddest now, okay, 10 years they're going to switch it up. So it's like, are you going to constantly adapt to the trends, or are you going to accept yourself as you are and accept that you are so much more than your physical vessel? This is my thing, right? When you start looking into beauty standards and you start looking into the progression of beauty standards, they tell you that it's diversifying. They say that we're adapting to the times, but it's like, if there is a singular standard, or if there is multiple standards for a wide body of people, there are people that are bound to be excluded. The fact that a standard even exists is saying to the people that don't fit it, oh well. The perpetrators of these beauty standards are so rooted in all these isms. So it's like, why would I take your word for it when I know what you are? I know you're rooted in racism. I know you're rooted in colorism. I know you're rooted in futurism. I know you're rooted in texturism. So why would I abide by what you say? Why would I abide by the standards that you're putting out? Why would I do that to myself? You excluded me from the beginning. In order to hold my dollar, you will say, oh, we're diversifying. but we're adapting, but we're changing. There shouldn't be a standard at all. When I watch shows and I watch movies and I engage in media, I want to see everybody. I want to see different faces. I want to see different figures. I don't want to see the same face planted on people of different shades. Now, we are living in a time where our bodies, our beings, our vessels are seen as malleable. They're encouraged to be malleable. And yes, they were. We can work out, change how we look. We can do gua sha and slightly change our face. But what's being encouraged is the Botox, is the filler, is the surgery. And then what's usually encouraged is taking something that is ethnic and making it into something that isn't. And it's encouraged through the lens of confidence. And whilst I think everybody should be able to do what they want to do, what happens when it's the same pattern over and over and over? You're telling the younger people on social media, because the way that the Sephora girls, they doing skincare at 6, messing up their skin barrier because that's what they see older people doing. The girls who are now 8 and 10, they're seeing all of these people with these same features get rid of them the second they get enough funds to do so. It's like, damn, is there something wrong with me? This is a hard conversation to have, just because I do personally believe that people should do what they need to do to reach peak confidence. We can't get into treating the individual when the issue is really the collective. Since the collective isn't being treated, since people aren't adjusting their lens on what beauty is, the beauty standard isn't becoming more inclusive of ethnic features. And I understand how so many people have internalized the way that we've been conditioned to view ethnic features. If the collective and if the culture and if the media and if the standard isn't changing and isn't becoming inclusive, then the individual who is excluded is going to say, okay, they're not going to include me, so I'm going to include myself. This is not to say don't do the things that you want to do to reach your peak confidence, especially because of the world we live in, where people see the physical first and they interact with you based off of that. I'm not against doing what you need to do. I just wish that wasn't the initial resort. There's a bit of unlearning that can happen before taking a seat in that doctor's office. Maybe say to yourself, like, let me consciously unlearn all of these ideals that have been instilled and conditioned into my brain from the time that I was very young. Maybe let me take a trip back to my country and look at all the beautiful people who have these same features. There's so many different efforts that should be taken beforehand, but because it is collectively accepted and encouraged for us to just go down that route of going under the knife, it's not really going to be questioned in the way that it should. It's kind of odd to address the individual who is a victim of the system and not address the system who's the perpetrator of that conflict. What I will say though is that it really pains me to see teens and anybody under 21 going under the knife, because you have not fully even grown into yourself. Your brain is not fully developed, and you're likely just intaking the things that you see in the media and trying to imprint those things onto yourselves. You haven't even grown to have a really strong sense of self. And I think when you have a strong sense of self and you know the things that you are okay with and the things that you're not okay with, then okay, let me take these steps to reach my best self. Not when I'm like 18 and I'm like, okay, let me just go under the knife because I seen, this celebrity do it and I need that right now. The fact that the filler and the Botox and the surgeries are so normalized and encouraged, people now see unconventionally attractive features as a choice. So when they run into somebody who's ugly, they see it as a failure of that person and not the failure of the system who's encouraging these standards, who's encouraging you to look at people like that. People, not just the vessel, but people. Just take a second right now and think of somebody that you know on social media who was bullied relentlessly just for their looks, just because they did not fit the standard, just because they were seen as ugly. There's so many people that come to mind, right? And that is now normalized. Complete disregard for a person, for a whole person, just because of how they look, which is beyond their control. As these things are being normalized, the cosmetic surgeries, saying to people, well, no, your looks are within your control. The fact that you look like that, you need to change that. You need to go get that surgery. You need to go get that skincare product and get rid of the whatever's going on in your face. I just saw this in real time. So there was a TikTok video. There's this girl, she's doing her lip combo, but you can see she has hyperpigmentation around her lips. I open up the comments. Every single comment is giving her advice. You need to use this. You need to use this. Mind you, she's unbothered. She even came out and said, hey, this doesn't bother me. I didn't ask for advice. And yet everybody's telling you, do this, do this, do this. Because why? Now when they gaze upon her, what's going on in their head is, you make me uncomfortable. Looking at your face makes me uneasy. So you need to do something about that. That is ultimately the dialogue. Because why do you look like that? Why do you look like that when there's a whole sea of products, procedures, and practices for you to take, for you to do. So why do you look like that? Why are you doing that to yourself? Why are you choosing to be ugly? Why are you choosing to be unattractive? And that's how a lot of people think nowadays. And that is the line of thinking that the current beauty industry is pushing. Why? Because when you think like that, and when you, as a regular individual on TikTok who thinks you're just helping this nice girl out, what are you doing? You're putting more money in their pockets. You're pushing her. You're saying, hey, spend your money on this, spend your money on that. And now the individuals, the victim of this system, are also the enforcers of this system. When you adopt those standards and you intake them into your perspective, and you put the glasses on of, when I encounter somebody who does not meet the standard, I am going to see it as their failure because they're not partaking in the industry. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. They're not using the skincare product. They're not bleaching around their mouth so they can get rid of that hyperpigmentation. And thus, they're choosing to look like that. So you think you're being nice, but what's really going on up here is, they look like that. Maybe they don't know how easy it is to fix that. Maybe they don't know how accessible these practices and procedures are. So let me just tell them, let me just give them that little bit of advice. What are you doing? You're feeding the industry, the very thing that is confining us to our vessels when we are so much more. I want to know how normalized these things are. I saw a TikTok video a while ago where he's like, no, you guys don't need to be spot treating. Y'all don't need that faded cream. You need to be bleaching. Let's get very serious right now. What are we talking about? You have a little dark elbow in your post and you see 5 comments. Oh, you can use this, you can use this. I'm fine with that. Who said I was insecure about that? You're uncomfortable. You're uncomfortable. It's your problem, not mine. If the sight of something that is unconventionally attractive makes you uncomfortable, then you're the problem, not the person. Not the person that you're gazing upon. And it's not their failure, it's yours. Because you blindly adopted the standards of the beauty industry. You put those glasses on of this is what people are supposed to look like, and you failed to take them off. And now that's what you see when you look in the mirror. And that's what you see when you're looking at people. It's one thing if they ask, it's another thing if it's unsolicited. Because when it's unsolicited, you're projecting. You're projecting your uneasiness when you see them, and that is your fault, because you're not seeing people as people anymore. You're seeing people as projects. The beauty industry tells you to prioritize how you look over all aspects of your personhood, your personality, your emotional maturity, your emotional intelligence, your level of intellect. And it's very interesting because we live in a time where people interact with you based off of how attractive they find you sometimes. So they'll talk to the person who they find ugly crazy, but when they run into somebody who they find attractive, now they're the sweetest person in the world. There's a quote that we tell men all the time: if you don't respect the woman that you don't find attractive, then you don't respect all women. And it's the same thing to every other person. If you only respect people that you find attractive, that fit within the lenses of the beauty standard that you adopted, then you do not respect people. Imagine how crazy that is. You treat people different and you see people as lesser because they chose not to conform. That's a real person right there. That person is real as hell. Nah, I'm not gonna conform. Nah, I'm not bleaching my elbows. Nah, I'm not bleaching my knees. Nah, I'm not getting my eyebrows done. Nah, I'm not getting my nails done. You real as hell. And other people gonna treat you different for that, but understand you're doing what a human, a person does, okay? And don't ever lose that quality. Telling people that their vessel is the most important thing about them is so antithetical to who and what we are as people, as humans. It's so against it, because it degrades you to what you look like. It degrades you to the vessel that you occupy. The person watching this is not the physical body that can be viewed by somebody. It's the person within. The person that's processing everything I'm saying is the person within. Not the vessel who can be gazed upon, but the person within. That's how we should be interacted with and treated, as the person within, not the vessel we occupy. I would even go as far as arguing that the vessel we occupy is one of the lesser important aspects of our personhood. I'm not saying you gotta neglect how you look. I'm not saying don't take care of yourself. I do my skincare. Sometimes I do my nails. You just have to be fully aware of how harmful the beauty industry is. You can't blindly intake everything they feed you. Then you start looking at unconventionally attractive people crazy. That's not how we're supposed to move as people, not as humans, not as conscious beings. That's not what we're supposed to do. The normalization of the things that the beauty industry is swamping us with, like the practices, the procedures, the products, all these different things, just throwing that onto us is telling us as people, as conscious beings, that what we perceive visually is what trumps everything. That's one of our senses. We have so many different senses, and to say that you are as good as what you look like is to say that this is the most important sense that we have, and it's not. It's not. All our senses work together to give us an interpretation of reality, right? They all work together. So when you prioritize one of your senses, you're throwing off the others. And that's why so many people ignore the things that attractive people do, because they're like, they're so nice to look at, but they doing all this weird stuff in your face, but you're just like, they're so attractive. And thus you're thrown off. All your senses are thrown off because you're prioritizing this one other sense. They're meant to work together. If you want to intake this in a written form, I wrote an essay on it. It's on Substack, The Digestible Difference. It's also going to be linked in the description box. When you think of what quantifies a person, a human, do you think of a person as their vessel, or as the spiritual being within that you interact with when you speak to somebody? Because you're not interacting with their vessel. When you hug somebody, you're interacting with their vessel. But when you're talking to them, you're interacting with the being that's within. That's the being who has a voice, but the vessel is the one that has the mouth. I don't know about y'all, but I see people as who they are within. I don't know somebody just based off of seeing them a couple times. I don't know them until I've actually interacted with them and we exchange a little bit of ourselves, who we are inside. And I know we have all went through this. You meet somebody, you don't think anything particular about what they look like, nothing pops into your head, but then you guys get close and you get to know them and you like, hold on. Every time you look at them, they're beautiful now. They're gorgeous. All that beauty that you saw within them has reflected to their outer being, and now every time you gaze upon them, you see that beauty. And that's how we were supposed to interact with each other. The inner reality or their inner being influences your perception of their physical being, not the other way around, where you see their physical being and you come to all these false assumptions about them and you throw that onto their inner being. That's so backwards, because to see beauty, we have to interact with people and really learn the functions of their inner being. And that's why I always say I can't see people until I learn them, because the opposite is true too. Have you ever ran into somebody who is conventionally attractive? They fit the beauty standard. The second you see them, you're like, oh wow, she's really pretty. And then you get to know them and they have a nasty attitude or a nasty spirit, and all of a sudden when you look at them, that's what you see. That beauty that you once saw in them, it's gone. It's gone because inside it doesn't match. That's such a common occurrence, and it just proves that that's the nature of how we were supposed to interact with each other. Inner to outer, not outer to inner. The beauty industry is erasing so many parts of our personhood, and it's constricting them to what we look like. It needs to be understood. Beauty is not inherent to a single figure, to a single face, to a single phenotype. You cannot take a picture of one person and travel the world and go back in time and go forward in time, and that person will be seen as attractive to every single person you come across. Impossible. There isn't a single person who is attracted to everybody. But there is a capacity for everybody to be perceived as beautiful. Not from the beauty standard perspective, but from the perspective of when you see that inner beauty and it reflects onto their outer, because changing who you are on the inside is accessible to everybody. You could have been the ugliest person with the ugliest spirit, but if you change that up and now you're beautiful on the inside, now when I look at you, I'm like, hold on, she got a little fine. And you didn't even have to touch your face. All you did was change who you were on the inside, and now it's reflecting onto you. Now you look radiant. The smartest thing for you to do as a conscious being, as a conscious individual, is to strip your brain from the beauty standard, because it is not concrete. It is a construct, and it's a construct that's intentional on preying on insecurities and creating them. Why? Whenever anything comes up, just remember the country we're in. Think back, where does this trace to? And think about capitalism, because capitalism is often always the man behind the pulpit. That's why they create these insecurities. That's why they go so hard for these things. That's why these things are pushed onto you whenever you open your phone, whenever you step outside. Why? Because more money. Literally. That's all they care about. There's no care for the individual. There's no care for the person. There's no care for the human behind the vessel. All they care about is the green that can be handed over by the vessel. You have to remember that. They don't care, so you gotta care. They're intentional about creating insecurities. You have to be intentional about blocking them out. Especially because beauty standards is a goalpost that's gonna be moved every couple of years. It's always going to be moved. Before it was the BBL, now it's the Pilates body. What is it going to be in 5 years? It shouldn't matter to you where it's going to be in 5 years, because you should find security within yourself. For you to know yourself, for you to be conscious and concrete in your consciousness and not see it as something that's against you, you have to strip your brain of what this world is constantly trying to feed you. Something that is a huge trend right now is anti-aging. So everybody's trying to fight aging. Everybody's trying to fight the laws of nature. Nobody wants a wrinkle. Nobody wants a line. Nobody wants a spot. And that is so unnatural. And this is the thing, right? Wrinkles, smile lines, forehead wrinkles, all of that is a celebration of life. You've lived a life. That is like wearing all the experiences that you went through on your face, and now it's degraded to, damn, you old. To tell people that it is a shame to age is to tell people that it's a shame to grow, to tell people that it's a shame to experience. And that is what this industry is pushing. You got people that's as young as 15 watching videos about anti-aging procedures like, damn, let me do this when I'm 20. Let me do this when I'm 21. Let me get the Botox at 23 because I don't want wrinkles when I'm 50. What? And this is what I mean when you start to degrade people to how they look. That's how these things become normal, because we're so much more than what we look like. Somebody who's old, you've lived, you're full of wisdom, knowledge, you're full of experiences, memories. You're so much more than the wrinkle that's on your head. The smile lines is showing that you laughed for most of your life. Once you shift what people are understood and perceived as, you shift how people view the regular things. Because we are in this anti-aging apocalypse, when you have people who have signifiers of old age, it's like, you know how accessible it is to get that fixed? And you know what this conversation leads to the young women watching this. I know you have experienced this, where you see a man and his wife, they're a little older, maybe a lot older. The man is staring at you. He's with his wife, but he's staring at you. He's looking at you up and down. He's flirting with you with his eyes. And that's now normal. Why? Because you're telling women that when they age, they are no longer desirable. You're telling women that their value is their youth. That's what the beauty industry is pushing. There's a lot of marriages like that where the man falls out of love with his wife because her physical, this is the lens of the beauty industry, because things start to sag, because she starts to get wrinkled, and now it becomes, okay, why wouldn't he look at the young girl? Why wouldn't he glance upon that and not his wife? Have you guys seen those old couples on TikTok? It brings me so much joy, where you can tell they're so madly in love with each other because they fell in love with their inner beings and not what they looked like. It's so cute. Like, they're literally like 80 and they have their little walkers and they're still bickering and making banter and having fun and laughing because they fell in love with the inner, because that's what we are, the inner. When you're 80, that inner should still be present and alive. The friendships that last are not the ones who were friends for the aesthetics, but the ones who built a foundation on genuineness. Imagine if we took the time that we spend, the time, the energy, and the money that we spend on nurturing our physical vessel. Imagine we took all of that and we just said, okay, let me nurture my spiritual. Let me nurture my emotional. Let me nurture my mental. Imagine how much this world would be a better place. Take a second and imagine if we nurtured our inner beings even half as much as we've been conditioned to nurture the outer. And I'm not saying neglect yourself. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if we just divert that energy into our inner beings, we would all be better people, all of us. Everybody can't conform. You know how people be saying, damn, everybody's starting to look alike. It's true. God gave us all these individual features, all these individual things about us, and imagine us saying, nah, I don't like that, let me go look like everybody else. The audacity. But that's what we're doing. We all coming off the same assembly line trying to look the same, and for what? The fact that we look different is a blessing. That's individuality. This world would be nothing without individuality. To the women watching this who are unfortunately stuck with the lens of, can't wait to look like this, I can't wait to do this, I can't wait to get this done, you still view yourself as a project. Look into body neutrality. Body neutrality wants you to value your vessel for what it does for you. Yeah, this might look like this might look like that, but this vessel is keeping me healthy. The reason I can speak is because of this vessel. The reason I can wake up and I can stretch and it can feel amazing is because of this vessel. And that's why I should value it. That's why I should give it high praise, not because of what it looks like, but because of what it does. Not even just women. I think everybody should look into body neutrality, because it doesn't matter if your skin clear today and then tomorrow you wake up with a bunch of acne, you still feel the same about your body. You still feel the same when you look in the mirror, because we're focusing on the function now. Thank you, organs, for the work you put in to keep me alive. Thank you, joints. Thank you, bones. Give yourself a hug. Give your body a hug. I'm so grateful for what you do for me, because that's the lens that we were supposed to view it, as a nurturer. You quite literally keep me alive, and thus I value for that. So if you hear what I'm saying and you're like, okay, this is making sense, I am a victim of the beauty industry. Even the way I view people is evident that I'm a victim of the beauty industry. I look at people and I'm like, she should get her lips done. If she just got a little bit of this done, if she got her eyebrows done, she would look better. If you can acknowledge that, look into body neutrality. Do the unlearning. Look up, what was the beauty standard in the 50s? In the 80s? And then when you look and go all the way back in time and you look at those pictures and you're like, damn, like, wow, like that's a big difference. Now change the region. Look in Africa, look in Europe, look in Asia. Look at how it's different everywhere, and thus it is not real. The force that inspired that line of thinking in your head of she should get this done, or I should get this done, or why do I look like this, and why does this look like this? The force that inspires that is just somebody who wants money. It's a force that cares about money and no more. They quite literally plant insecurities in your head. They plant these perspectives in your head to make money off of you. And so you need to educate yourself, and you need to actively unlearn, and you need to be more gracious with yourself and with people. As a collective, we have to reclaim who we are. We have to reclaim what we are. No, I'm not this vessel. I'm the person that's within. I'm the being that's within. I'm the spiritual being that is within this vessel. This is just my house. That's all it is, a vessel that holds me. And I really hope that we get to a point where we're nurturing our inner beings, we're nurturing our inner selves just as much as we're nurturing our physical. Because yes, nurturing your physical is self-care and it does feel amazing, but it feels even better to nurture yourself on the inside. So for anybody who truly understands what I'm saying and they want to readjust their lens on how they interact with themselves and just their understanding of beauty, look into body neutrality. That's really the next step. Now I'm going to throw the question back to you. Do you think that the beauty industry is dehumanizing?